Find a seat. Yes, good. I recommend being very comfortable. It's good for the mind, good for the spirit. Since this is our very first meeting, I thought it would be important to lay out some of the intentions of this gathering. The Diamonddust Magic Club will be a place of discussion, a place of education and exploration in the arts of magic. Any point of whimsy or charm can be brought to the attention of the group for pondering and investigation. This club is for the fantastically enthusiastic. I am joined today, as I will always be, by my silent but ever supportive co-host, the dove called Desire, whose general demeanor is telling me that I ought to get along with the real meat of the evening, and so I will begin on the subject at hand. Enchantments, and talismans.
But I don't wanna play for nobody, I wanna play for you.
A talisman in general is an object that is believed to provide protection or luck for whoever is holding it. It's this idea that a small physical thing can affect the physical or the spiritual by its mere presence. Things like lucky socks, four-leaf clovers, people can carry with them and effectively gain confidence from their presence by, I think, what most people would consider a placebo effect. They know they're wearing their lucky socks, and so with that they can play and perform with abandon, with more confidence, and that results in more positive outcomes. The socks are almost stored with the idea of confidence, with the idea of success, and that bolsters your own mind to feel that hoping for success and acting towards success is possible. You've got backup somehow, support. And that a lot of the time is all that the mind needs to do some pretty impressive things. What would happen then if you instilled an object with a different kind of idea, not confidence, but something else? I'm a very cerebral person, and I've had a lot of trouble in the past with feeling grounded, feeling real, present in the moment. And what I would have to do to ground myself would be muster up a lot of mental effort and go through a lot of exercises and processes to feel solid, to feel in this world. Maybe on a good day when you're in a good mental state, it can be easier and faster, and all of the principles related to the idea are fresh in your mind and easily accessible. But what about those days when they aren't? That none of your own resources are enough to get you grounded. I find that the mind is an incredibly powerful thing, but the more that I research and experience, the more I realize that reality and substance is also very powerful. And as it turns out, I think they are both even more potent and more effective when they're combined and used together. So I decided to make for myself an object that would embody the idea of reality. And the hope was that I could use this object like lucky socks, like a talisman, to remind myself to go through the process of grounding in those moments where I'm floating too far away. I'm a big fan of symbolism, so I wanted my talisman to be specific, to be a reference to something precise that would embody the idea of grounding so that nothing about the object would be arbitrary. I didn't want any weakness in this object. It was going to be my tether, my anchor to reality, so it had to be perfect. I did a decent amount of thinking, and what I ended up landing on was the prime material plane. I am a big fan and regular listener of a actual play D&D podcast called The Adventure Zone, hosted by the McElroys of MaximumFun.org, for a little plug there. Excellent piece of fiction and something that I was really into and listening to actively at the time that I was trying to make my talisman. And lo and behold, there's a piece of story in the campaign that was exactly what I needed. In the fictional world of the Adventure Zone, there are various planes of existence. And the different planes have different properties, so you have elemental planes of fire, water, earth, air. I believe it's light and shadow. Then you have things like the celestial plane and the astral plane, the ethereal plane. Then there's a plane of magic, a plane of thought, and finally, the prime material plane. When I first listened to the episode that dealt with these planes, I connected instantly with the plane of thought. I was like, oh man, that's cool. I so identify with that thought, a whole plane of just the mind, concepts, philosophies. Oh. But the plane of thought is not somewhere that I need help getting to. I'm virtually tethered, trapped forever in the plane of thought. It's the prime material plane, this world, that I needed a connection to. The planes are each represented by a different kind of gemstone that's been grown into a perfect disc. I went out, got myself a circular piece of colored glass, and just like that, my talisman was born. There was no incantations, no real spells cast, but when I got my disc of glass, so many ideas were instantly just soaked into it. It was a cut and dry reference to the prime material plane in the Adventure Zone story, something that was close to my heart and very vivid in my mind. It was a flat, round, smooth surface, very interesting to hold in your hand and feel, run fingers across the edges. Any tactile experience is another good strategy for grounding. And more potent than anything, I imbued the very existence of the object, the fact that I had it, with the concept of reality, the fact that I needed to stay here, present, see the physical things around me, believe that they're real, that I could touch them. And all of these ideas were stitched deep into this object. So now, let's follow the little trick of the mind. And you tell me if this sounds like an enchantment. At a point when I was filled with power, I was grounded, I'd done it successfully. I was strong and I was sure that grounding was helpful, valuable, powerful. At that moment where I had power, I associated all of that confidence and assurance into the object of the glass disc. And so now all of these ideas are stored in the object. Then, at a later time, a moment where I'm tired, where I'm distant, where I've drained myself emotionally and I'm floating far outside my body. I don't feel like anything's real. I'm in the plane of thought. And at that moment where I do not have any power, picking up this object, I'm in possession of all of the ideas of my past self, my more powerful self. I've stored the confidence and the grounding in the object like saving something in a file folder on your computer. And then future me, in my tired state, can now take advantage of that stored power, skip over all the effort to convince myself that grounding is even worth it. I don't have to hold all of the processes and tricks and strategies of how to ground in my mind all the time. I've stored them in the object, so now I can grab them without retrieving them from my own memory. It's a mental trigger. It's a mental cue. And just like that, I have support. I have an ally in this object, which is really just a representation of me at a stronger mental state. So think back. Doesn't that sound exactly like my definition of enchantment? Maybe the magical power didn't come from diamonddust or a spell book, but this object, its presence, has caused an effect in the outside world. It's changed something. It's changed something in my mind. The power to be grounded is something that I have, but it's not always accessible, at least not easily. The object is an access point. It's a helper, a reminder. Like I said before, so many things, so many little, seemingly mundane or unimportant things have within them so much power. And a lot of the reasons for that can be proved with science. And some of the reasons for that power is just our imaginations. But neither of those things being true prevents any of it from being magic. I believe exhausted the subject for the time being. It's an incredibly helpful practice. I hope you will all consider trying your hand. I hope you enjoyed this very first meeting of the Diamonddust Magic Club. Desire and I are so pleased you could join us, and so I wish you a fond farewell, and that you may go along your way with just a dash more whimsy. Goodbye.